and without more ado, what's the point? At this moment, I hope you'll understand if I sit down, because I want to have a conversation rather than a stand-up conversation. If that proves difficult for you to hear, will you please let us know? This is the two Wendys. Wendy Laird and I have been talking together for quite a long time now. Wendy, it would be very helpful that you respond to that large why that we've put on our slide. Just because I think what we hear about is some of the passion that belongs to getting things as right as we can. And why do we need to do that? So very briefly, and I know you said I would have to hit you, we need to manage the time, so we will have a brief conversation at this moment.
Right, well, I have as Wendy knows, I have a disabled son who lives independently, and it's the quality of his care workers that denotes the quality of his life. You've got poorly paid staff. Gavin is miserable because he's not getting the support, he's not getting the help, even if it's just somebody to play cards with. That's so important to him because that's his interaction with the outside world in many ways. And you know, it's not just about registration either, it's about the ongoing CPD. Again, Wendy, I'm sure you'll remember that talk we recently had with Jim, who was just qualified from his Masters. And he had been working with a multicultural baby, with young people. And he'd said to them, he'd asked them, who would you rather work with? A fully trained social worker or a student? And unanimously they said a student, because the student is enthusiastic, is at the peak of their learning experiences, is not jaded and tired, and that's what CPD actually has to be about, is really getting people back to being revitalised again. Not just going on a course because, oh God, I've got to do this because I've got to get my registration up and I've got so many hours to do. Well, no, you've got to go back to your job with renewed enthusiasm. I'm maybe getting off the point there,
no,
but that
no,
was...
I guess that all of you will respond to what Wendy's saying with a recognition of what that's like. You may have staff who need that revitalising, and you need to find the ways of helping them to do that. I hope today will be about demonstrating to Wendy the assurance that the intentions and then the actualisation of what registration can mean, will be able to be reassuring.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, again, Gavin's got a social worker who supervises in an overarching way things, make sure that they go right. And she's extremely important, and I mean, I realise that we're very, very lucky. We actually have a review meeting every 6 weeks with a social worker, care provider organisation, myself and Gavin. He can't stand having too many people around him, so we keep the numbers fairly small, and we do not include the care workers so that he can talk about them, so he doesn't damage relationships there. And another important thing which I'm always banging on about, as Wendy will know, the care workers are not friends, and so often they get really quite pissed off, pardon my French, because Gavin doesn't think of them as friends. To him, they are paid employees. Gavin has an acquired brain injury, so he's an intelligent man. In this, you know, he's word retrieval is poor. He has all sorts of disabilities, epilepsy. He's hemiplegic. He's now in a wheelchair, and his thought processes aren't perhaps as good as they might be. But it doesn't mean to say that he doesn't eventually get there. And if somebody's patronising or being, you know, trying to force him to do something, he knows what it's all about, and he's just not going to go along with them. And it sometimes takes care workers until, because they only last for about 2 years on the main part, and it sometimes takes them the whole 2 years to actually understand what the job is all about. And by that time they'll have finished with university or whatever. They'll have paid their way through uni, although that might not be a problem anymore given our nice new government. And they move on to proper jobs, hopefully. But if they're still in that line of work, which many of them are nurses in the making or social workers in the making or whatever, they will take the experiences that Gavin has had with them. I mean, he's trained a lot of really good people in his time, providing they're willing to listen.
Thank you very much for that. We could have a conversation that goes on for an awful lot longer, and we could actually bring Wendy's helpful perceptions and experience to allow us to focus on particular things. I do hope that little part of a conversation, which is actually part of a much longer one that we're continuing to have during our experiences of learning how to help to embed a learning culture. And it's also to make sure that it is the views, do stay where you are for a minute, it is also to make sure that service users and carers really are at the heart and in the driving seat for what we need to do. Many people in this room are extremely experienced professionals, but I would challenge any one of us not to be moved by the thoughts and the perceptions that Wendy can offer about what it's like to be in this experience and how we need to learn from that. So this is another aspect of this morning I do hope we will be able to do.